So, we are going to be doing part 2 of the Killer Add-on Guide. I did say we were going to do this in 4 or 5 videos, and I kind of meant that. So, our first video was discussing the Trapper, the Wraith, the Billy, and the Nurse. Now, the Nurse, the funny part was like that a few hours after that video release, they actually announced that they would be reworking her add-ons. So I will have to do a separate video about the new Nurse changes. I will do that, but not this time. What I am going to be talking about, however, is I'm going to be talking about these guys right here. The Hag, the Doctor, the Shape, and the Huntress. And quite controversially, I actually need to switch my headset because I don't like the sound quality on this, especially while I'm streaming, so hold on. I also can showcase my bandana a little bit better, I guess. I'm running the bandana today. But a few of these killers I'm going to have some controversial opinions on. So let's start with the Hag. And the Hag's power is that she gets 10 traps, she can lay them down, and when they're triggered by a survivor, she can teleport to them. But there's a couple of caveats to that, and I want to explain it with her add-ons. So, probably the most important thing that people don't realize is that there's a 40-meter range that she can travel to, which is a little bit outside of the realm of Devour Hope and Make Your Choice. So if you are trying to run a build around Devour Hope and Make Your Choice, you need to understand that you have to be relatively close. And we're going to talk a little bit about Hag balance in a minute, once I delve into the add-ons. The other problem that there is that survivors have to trigger them. So the way it works is if you can avoid a trap by crouch walking over it. If you know it's there, you can just crouch walk over the trap and not trigger it. If you walk or run over it, it'll trigger. Or near it. And that's what we're going to talk about with the add-ons. So starting with the brown add-ons, what you have is slightly reduced the setting time. That means that you draw the trap a little bit faster. You have slightly increases the trap duration time. What that means is how long you have to teleport to the trap. You have the slightly increase the distance from where the Hag can teleport to her traps. This is I believe this is the 16-meter one. So this adds a little bit of range to it. Bog Water slightly increases the effective Phantasm trap range. Now this is important, a lot of people get this confused. So, the distance that she can teleport to the traps is how far away she can be from the trap. So this is the Hag, this is the trap. This is the Hag, this is the trap. She can't teleport unless the trap is here. But if you have an add-on, she can teleport from it here. That's the best way to explain it. Then you have the effective Phantasm trap range. What does that mean? So, the trap is right here. The survivor needs to be here to trigger it. The effective trap add-on increase means that the survivor can be here and trigger it. It means that the survivor can be farther away and still trigger the trap. We're not really going to talk about the brown ones. None of her brown ones are really that powerful. I mean, their numerical advantage that it gives you is so small. The downside to her is the fact that the downside to her is that she has one yellow, I think she has one yellow and one green. Yeah, she has one yellow, one green, and all of her purples and ebonies provide things that are not numerical changes, when the problem with her trap is the numerical power of it. And she kind of needs that reworked. So she has 4 brown add-ons, 4 green add-ons, and 4 yellow add-ons that work that you need to buff, because you do the setting speed of the trap is like the only thing you don't really need to increase. You need to increase the duration, you need to increase the distance, and you need to increase the range, and you have to choose between 2 of these things, because remember, you only get to bring 2 add-ons. So it's like when you play the Hag, it's like you get to choose between which 2 of the 3 major categories we'll talk about the other yellow add-on, which this reveals the survivor's aura for 3 seconds when they trip the trap. This is a very weak add-on. I would not recommend that. It can be nice as a filler, but there's one reason why. You have another one that reveals the aura for 5 seconds. That is a much stronger one because you have to take into account the travel time animation. So let's say a survivor trips a trap. It's going to take you 1 second to recognize that and teleport. Another second to actually teleport and get over there. So you've burned most of your actual aura. The only real reason you use that is to get a reveal on a survivor, like on the other side of the map, to see what they're doing. You can use it quite effectively if you have make your choice, because you can be like, okay, you can see which survivor is the one that'll be exposed, and if you can actually pair it up if you have the increased duration, because that means that you can get maybe a little bit closer and then teleport over. But so what we have is moderately increase the trap duration time, how long you have to teleport. Moderately increase the distance the hag can teleport. That should be 24 meters if I remember correctly. Moderately reduces the setting time of the trap. Moderately reduces the effective trap, or moderately increases the effective trap range. The yellow add-ons are where it's at for these, because these are some notable differences. So to put this under perspective, for example, the half eggshell, which increases the tripped duration time. Normally you have, I believe it's 3, I forget if it's 3 or 4 seconds to teleport. The brown one adds an extra second. The eggshell adds an extra second and a half to that. And that's a much big on top of the original one. So that makes it I think that's like 2 seconds. And that 2 seconds is very critical, because if you swing and you have to eat the cooldown from hitting a survivor, you can still teleport in time with the extra 2 seconds. Same thing with the distance from the hag trap. So remember, this will be I think this should be a 24 meter increase. That increase puts you at a 64 meter range. Now that's a good distance. That's about the same as Detective Hunt. That's Detective Hunt Tier 3. So that puts it into perspective for you. If you play around that perk at all, that's how far away it can be. I think that's Empathy Tier 2 as well. I'm not sure. But basically, that is a significant distance, and it actually makes the trap playable. So if you're chasing another survivor and somebody trips the trap, you know, hey, you're actually able to take advantage of that. You have the Cypress Necklace, reduces the setting time. That's nothing. The setting time comes down to milliseconds. Even the yellow one I wouldn't recommend. And then the effective trap range, that I'm not sure about the actual distance increase on that. Generally, what you want to run is you want to run the distance and the duration, or you want to run the distance and the trap range. Those are the two combinations of add-ons. So when you look at the green one, so you have the Bloodied Mun considerably increases the Phantasm trap range. I do know that one from personal experience. So if she sets it down at a pallet, you will still trigger the trap if you're walking on the opposite side of the pallet sometimes. It is a brutal add-on. It's a solid add-on for the hag. Another one is the Cracked Turtle Egg. This increases the tripped trap duration time, so you can teleport over there. This adds an additional 3 seconds to the timer, and people think, oh, it's not that bad. Okay, she has 7 seconds basically to 6-7 seconds to teleport to a trap. It's huge. The big one that everyone runs, the must-have, is the Dried Cicada. This increases it to 32 meters, which puts it at a 72 meter range. The Dried Cicada is absolutely fantastic because it gives you map pressure. It gives you a little bit more than half the map. This actually is what you need. But the problem with her is that realistically, you have to combo, you know, a Dried Cicada with the correct turtle shell or with the Bloodied Mud. Again, you know, the Swamp Orchid Necklet is the one that considerably reduces the setting time. That's the only setting speed add-on I would recommend. You don't really need the other setting speed ones. But you can get value out of the other ones as like a filler in a build. You're just going to have a much more uphill battle. If you want to have fun as the hag, it's pretty much Dried Cicada with something else. Now the problem with her is she has solid, what I call meme builds. So all of her purple and ebony add-ons fit into meme builds about, you know, this is what these traps do. Or these are what these do, and this is how you can change your traps. But the problem is, if you're trying to run an optimal hag build around the traps, you need the cicada, and you need a turtle egg, or you need the cicada, and you need the mud. You can't really do any of these. So let's look at a few. You have the Scarred Hand. This is for the body blocker builds. So now it makes it so the Phantasms have collision. The hag cannot teleport to her traps. It gives her 300% blood points for deviousness, and it trumps all other add-ons, and you can put Distressing on with this, which is really kind of fun. Now you have this massive terror radius, you have these traps with a massive terror radius, and you have 400% blood points and deviousness. The big thing that's important to note is that this is situational. You basically, what you're going to be doing is, normally you put a trap in a position where it's going to be easily triggered, like around a hook. Here you don't do that. Here you're putting traps in front of windows. You're putting traps on either side of a pallet. So it makes it so they can't vault, so that it guarantees a hit. Because remember, the trap does go away. It does give you the notification that's there. It's not a permanent block, but it is a solid add-on. The downside is the lack of teleporting to traps means that you are very immobile. It takes away her map pressure, and it means that any other add-ons that you want to run, except for maybe the setting time, just are gone. There is no point to the cicada. There is no point to the bloodied mud. You could run the cracked, or no, you want the bloodied mud, sorry. You don't want the cracked turtle, because what you want is a larger trap range so they can trigger it. So maybe you run the bloodied mud and the Scarred Hand, but again, that's a very meme-oriented build. Another one I want to talk about would be Grandma's Heart. So this reduces the hag's heartbeat to 0 every time a survivor triggers a trap, and it increases the Phantasm's heartbeat by 16 meters. The Phantasms already have a small, I think it's like an 8 or a 16 meter heartbeat. It's the same as Spirit Husk when she goes into Yamoka. That's basically a Phantasm as well. So I believe that she has an 8 meter, so this will be an 8 meter. Now, the downside to this is basically Dark Devotion, the add-on. Like, we talked about that with the Wraith video where there's certain powers that are add-ons. This is Dark Devotion, the add-on, and I don't think it's a very strong add-on to run. Again, if you're playing seriously, I can't recommend this add-on. The other one that we have this is a minor inconvenience, is the Disfigured Ear. So survivors who trigger a trap are deafened for 6 seconds. That does nothing. That honestly does nothing. I've gone up against this so many times, and it's like, people think it's a good add-on. The only thing is, like, there are some minute details, like, okay, I can't hear an injured survivor's breathing or grunts of pain. If I'm on meatpacking, I'm running up the stairs, and they're right around the corner at the pallet that I'm going to, I won't be able to hear that. Other than that, that does nothing. Probably the best add-on that she has, besides the cicada, is the Rusty Shackles. So what this does is the traps do not spawn phantasms, and the tripped traps do not give an indication to survivors. This is the stealth. This is the stealth idea. So this makes it so that survivors don't know when they've triggered a trap or not. This is game breaking. There's a lot of survivors that are like, I triggered a trap, I need to run away. And so they run away. This is the best thing you can run. If you're going to run any of the purples, I would say the Rusty Shackles. But again, that's a downside. She has very few add-ons that are very good. What you have is the Mint Rag. This is a very strong one right here, but it's not as common as the other one, unfortunately. So the hag can teleport to any trap on the map, but it has a cooldown of 15 seconds. That's not as bad as you think. 15 seconds is a decent chase. Like, if you're just shredding survivors non-stop, or they're just triggering all your traps. The thing about it is that gives it strength is that if you run something like Barbecue and Chili, or Discordians, you can do that. You can just teleport to that trap automatically. A lot of people say to run it with the Rusty Shackles, but you don't need to. Remember, you're better off running Rusty Shackles with a cicada, so survivors don't know they trigger the trap, and you can just jump them. The Mint Rag works best in situations with an aura reveal or notification to be able to immediately get over to a trap and go, hey, you're not expecting me because you didn't trigger that trap. Here I am. Very strong, but it has limited potential because you can only put one add-on with it and you realistically need more. The other one is the Waterlogged Shoe. This is a bad add-on. So survivors that run over traps get hindered for 1.5 seconds. This basically turns Hag traps into Freddy Dream Snares. And realistically, Freddy is a better killer than Hag for this. Freddy and Hag are in such separate categories. Hag has like camping potential with the traps, so it gives her decent unhook potential. But other than that, Freddy is so far superior because if you're playing Waterlogged Shoe versus a Snare Freddy, he has the teleport that she doesn't get. Because she doesn't get to teleport. She just gets to be slightly faster. So you can pair this up with, you know, Bamboozle, play with your food, and you can have a decent, you know, M1 killer build. But removing her traps, realistically, the slowdown on the survivor is not enough. It's only, I think it's 20% for 1.5 seconds. It's not strong enough. Especially because she can't teleport. She has no map pressure. So the Mint Rag and the Rusty Shackles are the main 1-2 high add-ons you want to go for. And then you want to focus on the Bloodied Mud, the Cracked Turtle Egg, the Dried Cicada, and subsequently, you know, Dragonfly Wings, Cypress Necklace, and the Bloodied Water. Her brown ones are just filler ones that you pick up if they're cheap in a Blood Web. The rest of them I wouldn't really say. You can make a case for the 5-second green aura reveal. If you want to go for a meme build, you can pick up Granny's Heart, or the Disfigured Ear, or the Scarred Hand, but they're not really that strong. Next killer we're going to talk about is the doctor, give me the news. So, basically the way it works is, he gets to switch stances, and while he's in his treatment mode, which is just him saluting you, don't get offended by that, he gets to shock people based around the proximity to the doctor. So, the way it works is he has two abilities. So you have your static field, which generates based around your terror race. So increasing your terror race means you have a larger static field. So survivors that are in the static field gradually have their madness meter progress and level up. And then he has the shock treatment, where he actually shocks the survivors and manually increases it if they're in range. In Tier 1, they just scream and reveal their position. In Tier 2, they scream and reveal their position and they have hallucinations. And in Tier 3, they regularly scream and reveal their positions, and they cannot heal, repair, sabotage, search, or cleanse until after they snap out of it. So, what does this mean? There's one important thing that I don't think a lot of people understand, and that is unhooking survivors and opening exit gates are not affected by Tier 3 madness. That's something I want to throw in right now before we begin. A lot of people are like, oh, the doctor, blah, blah, blah. He counters everything. You guys know. No, that's not true. You can go for unhooks, especially if you have something like Borrowed Time. You have to be careful, though, because the prompt on screen is going to be the same for opening a gate or unhooking a survivor as it is to snap out of it. So, the Doctor is a very annoying killer to go against. His add-ons changes. So basically, he has a lot of add-ons that have a lot of effects. Now, realistically, most of his add-ons are pretty good. I would say there's no real bad Doctor build or Doctor add-on. The most common build you're gonna see, there's only two really good Doctor builds. So we're going to start from the top and work our way bottom. So let's start at the top. This is the Iridescent King. So basically, this is all of the Doctor's add-ons of afflictions in that rolled up in one. So every time the survivor receives a shock therapy, they gain a new affliction that is chosen at random until they have all of them. It says afflictions of the same type do not stack. That's actually kind of not true. So for example, if you're already affected by Iridescent Calm, you're not going to get affected by that again if it's the next thing you would have randomly gotten. So basically, every time he shocks you, you're going to get hit with it. So what does it have? So you have the fake pallets with iridescent order. You have the duration of the Doctor illusions increases with iridescent restraint. That's not really a big deal. You have iridescent calm, which I said before. There's a constant, distant heartbeat. So it sounds like they're always coming. This does get countered out, by the way, with stakeout and diversion. Stakeout and diversion are not affected by the iridescent calm. That's something I want to say. So if you are running those perks, the iridescent calm does not affect that. The next one, you have an iridescent discipline. When the chase begins, survivors in Tier 2 Madness perceive the red stain and terror radius behind them for a duration of 10 seconds. This is annoying as fuck. This is always active for survivors in Tier 3. The last one is Iridescent Obedience. In Madness 3, survivors are exhausted. I will warn you, this is probably the worst add-on in the game to go up against, because it's like, you don't know. You'll know when there's an Iridescent King, because if you get shocked twice and there's a constant red stain behind you and you're exhausted, you're like, oh, I know what it is. But it's just so unfun to go against. I mean, it's great for the Doctor, because he gets so much potential out of it. Need coffee. The thing a lot of people don't really realize with the Doctor, with the Iridescent King, they think it's every time I get leveled up into, you know, Tier 1 Madness to Tier 2 Madness, and Tier 2 Madness to Tier 3, I get afflicted with something at random. No, it's every time he shocks you. If I shock you 7 times, realistically, you're going to be affected by everything up there. So when you see a lot of Doctors that are just shock, shock, shock for no apparent reason, that's why. But to be fair, it's the only real powerful add-on he has for like a super powerful build. A lot of people run the high stimulus electrode. Again, this is a solid add-on. So this increases the shock therapy attack range by 75%. Remember, this is something I also have to mention for people who don't understand the Doctor's quirks. Shock therapy is the button you actively press to shock them. The static field is the passive that over time builds madness if they're in it. Shock therapy is not affected by your terror radius. People think it's like, oh, you're within 32 meters of me, I can shock you. That's fucking stupid. No, that's not how that works. Bad kitty. So most people tend to run the high stimulus electrode just so that they can increase the shock therapy range with that. And all your shock therapies are pretty good, the add-ons to increase the range. Where it increases the charge time, that's not really a big deal. The range increase is more significant. Being able to guarantee a shock therapy is better than it taking slightly longer. For your purples, we have a variety. So the first one is Calm. So this considerably increases your terror radius in treatment mode, but decreases it in punishment mode. And when getting a Negan flashbacks here. Let's explain what this means first before we go down to the madness ones. Because with the Doctor, you have to understand his add-ons take a long time. Because it is twofold. It is, there's a benefit, and then there's a survivors who are in madness get a different benefit. Or punishment. This is basically Monitor and Abuse, the add-on version, but it does stack with Monitor and Abuse, which makes it important. So you have tremendously increases terror rates in treatment mode. That means that your terror radius in the treatment mode, remember that's your passive for the static field as well. When you're in treatment mode, you get that passive for static. So normally you have a 32 meter terror radius. This increases it, I believe, by 24 meters. So it's almost double. It's not quite double. That's a very large terror radius. And if you put on something like Distressing, you can pretty much cover the whole map. In punishment mode, which is your M1 mode, it decreases by 24 meters. Yeah, it decreases by 24 meters. Yeah, I keep forgetting. It's the same. So that means you have an 8 meter terror radius. And if you run Monitor and Abuse on top of this, that means that it's going to be flipped. That's the important thing. Because remember, Monitor and Abuse is when you're not in chase. So let's say you're in treatment mode and you're not in chase, your terror radius is reduced by 8 meters. So really this is only giving you a 16 meter increase in treatment mode. Then you get into chase, if you switch to punishment mode, your terror radius goes up by another 8 meters. So with this add-on, you would have a 16 meter terror radius. So Monitor and Abuse doesn't stack well with this. I call it Monitor and Abuse even though it's the opposite of it, because it's very important to understand that's basically what you're doing. It's like Furtive Chase as well. If you compare Furtive Chase with this, it's a much stronger combination. So now for the Madness ones, you have survivors that are in Tier 2 have a tremendous chance, guarantee, to play as if the survivor was right on the edge of the killer's terror radius for a duration of 20 seconds. Again, that's actually negligible, because if you're running this add-on already, his terror radius is generally going to be going between huge to shrinking. So that doesn't really play a big deal. The other one is Madness 3, is terror radius, constant heartbeat, as if the survivor was on the edge of the kill. Not a big deal. Mainly you're running this for the primary effect, not the madness. The next one is discipline. Carter's notes, increase the madness inflicted by your shock therapy by 25%. This means that when you are actually shocking survivors, that they're getting to madness quicker. This makes it so that they can get from tier 0 to tier 1 in one shock, and they will be halfway to tier 2 after that shock. So remember, it doesn't take a lot to go from tier 1 to tier 2, but tier 2 to tier 3 takes more effort. Kind of like Mike. So, in survivors in tier 2 and 3, when a chase begins, they perceive the red stain and the terror radius as though the killer were right behind them for a duration of 10 seconds, and while they are in Madness 3, the doctor will always see the illusionary red stain behind people. Okay, what does this mean? This means that in tier 2, you can kind of lose him a little bit after that 10, because he doesn't see the red stain, his own red stain, which is kind of funny. The thing that's important to note is it makes it very difficult for survivors to hide. If you're in tier 3 and you're trying to like hide and snap out of it next to him because he's lost you, that's not going to work. He'll see the red stain. Like if you're a Blendette hiding in the tall grass, trying to snap out of it, he's going to see that red stain and he's going to jump scare your ass. All of the ones where the doctor sees like the red stains or the fake palettes or the illusions are solid because it's extra tracking for him. His add-ons are actually all based around tracking, which is funny because his perks are not really. His add-ons are for tracking, his perks are more for some annoying slowdown mechanics and a little bit of jump scare with monitor. Overall, these are good add-ons, but they're also situational. The problem with the doctor, they're all situational about what you want to do before the game begins. Like, you want to say, okay, I'm going to run these two add-ons so that I can have easier time finding survivors and shocking them and getting them up to tier 3 quickly, and then I can track them down with the red stain. That's a good 1-2 combo, but the downside is they're purples. So you have obedience, so the snap out of it takes an extra 2 seconds to complete. This increases how long it takes to snap out of it by 5 seconds. This is actually one of, in my opinion, the best purple add-on just because survivors in tier 3 madness are exhausted. So again, this is the benefit of the doctors that shock, that they get you to tier 3. They're going to get you to tier 3 before they hit you. You don't get dead hard, you don't get bounce landing, you don't get lift. You probably only burn sprint burst. If you haven't burned sprint burst, what the fuck, man? Like, come on. So, this is evil. I love it. Next one is order. Carter's note. So again, this increases the madness inflicted by the static field. Remember, that's the passive. That affects your terror radius when you're in treatment mode. Means you tear them up faster. Broken pallets may appear to be replaced with illusionary pallets that persist until approached. Illusionary pallets are generated every 20 seconds at the location of a broken pallet with an unlimited range of the doctor, and the doctor can see these. The fake pallet thing really isn't that significant. Another important thing to note is that this is countered by windows of opportunity. That is like one of the only uses for windows of opportunity. Don't at me, bro. But it does kind of work against this because yes, the palette will appear on the screen, but it will also you'll see that it's not there, and then you'll see it's there, and if you're a smart survivor, you're like, that's fake. But mostly you're running like the other one, you're going to be running this for the primary benefit, which is the increase in the stack. The last purple one is survivors' auras are shown for 3 seconds when madness increases, tremendously increasing duration of a illusionary doctor. Now, these are important for tracking. This is his strongest tracking perk, even though it's basically an add-on. And the reason for that is the survivors not only get their aura shown whenever their madness increases, which means if they snap out of it and you're able to use the static field to passively get them back up to tier 3, you can see where they're hiding, as well as you can use the illusions to track. Like, if I see the illusion, I know there's a survivor looking in that direction. So now we can burn through the rest of these fairly quickly. So you have Discipline, Class 3, so when Chase begins, Survivor, this is basically increases the shock therapy a little bit, and the survivors get the red stain behind them. This is auras are shown for 2 seconds, and you can see the range, you can see the auras of the fake Doctor clones. High stimulus electro, we already talked about that. Then you go to your yellow one, so this is the yellow version of the fake monitor and abuse, where it increases treatment, decreases punishment mode, and it has the faint terror radius. This is increased shock therapy with the fake red stain. This is increased static field with the fake pallets. This is increased aura with the fake illusion. This is I'll cover that one in a minute. This is polished electrode. This is a 50% increase in shock therapy. Also increases the charge time. Most of these are just statistical changes, and obviously you're going to want your purples. Your purples are your best bets for that. If you can get the greens, go ahead. If you can get the yellows, go ahead. These are all pretty standard stuff. Doctor builds don't really vary too much. This is one exception right here. So you have your interview tape. So this changes the shock therapy from a cone in front of you to a beam with a 2-meter width and a 20-meter range. So what it means is that it is a straight line shot. So you can use it to very specifically target people at a longer range. It's a straight line shot. You can use this better in a chase where a survivor's just running in a straight line. This add-on is better. But the problem is you don't really see the range of it. There's a brown add-on that helps with this, the Maple Knight, that reveals the area of effect of your shock therapy so you can see what you're shocking. It's not a great add-on, but it is helpful with that specific add-on. You have the scratch tape. This changes the shock meter attack from a cone to a ring. So this is cast 8 meters in front of the Doctor with an outer radius of 4.2 meters and an inner radius of 3 meters. This is such a weird add-on that I just don't like running, because it changes it from being a frontal thing to almost like a trap. So it's basically, I don't know how to explain this. I need a prop for this. I actually need like 2 props. Okay, I'll do this. I'm not kidding. I actually need props. So let's say this is where the Doctor is standing. This is the Doctor standing. This is the normal range of a shock attack. Let's say I'll do this. This is the normal range of the shock attack. Okay, it's a small cone directly in front of him. The other one changes it to a beam, so it's a much longer range straight line beam. So if instead of it being a cone, it's just a straight line beam. Now what this does is it makes it a ring. So it starts here, it ends here, and it starts here. So there's a start, an end, and a start. So it's a ring shape in front of him instead. It's really weird, and I feel uncomfortable playing around it. But it changes how people move around him. So it's like most people are like, oh, I just need to get behind him and I can't get shocked. Yeah, but if he turns his camera at the right angle, he can fuck with you. And again, this is the slight increase in these things. All in all, the Doctor add-ons are fairly balanced, actually. Other than the Iridescent King, he doesn't have a lot of variation. He has a couple of meme builds, but they're yellow ones, believe it or not. His add-ons are just meant to give him some tracking and some annoyance. I'm actually going to cut the video after these 2, because they require more explanation, and I'll go into the next part right away, mostly because I'm on a roll. So I'll see you in a minute.